welcome on into another episode of Getting Well with Terry and Friends, NHL Season Preview Show Edition. Now we are going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning, the previous two-time champs who went to the Stanley Cup Final and sadly lost to the Avalanche. They were unable to win the three-peat, and now they'll be looking to get back to the Stanley Cup for the fourth year in a row, if they can make it this year. We'll jump into additions and subtractions and look at what Tampa Bay has done, and not a whole lot really in the offseason. Obviously, there was the McDonough for Myers trade. They added Hayden Fleury. They lost Jan Ruda. They added Nemestikov. They lost Riley Nash. They added Cole and Trevor Carrick on the defense. They lost Hudon and Andre Palat on the offense. So losing McDonough, yes, he's slowing down as a player, but still the locker room presence will be gone. And losing Andre Palat, Tampa's been year after year is losing some of their core players. So we'll see if it really takes an effect on them this year. And then looking at the additions, some young guys in Myers and Fleury. We'll see what they can do. Nemestikov, Ian Cole, Trevor Carrick, kind of older guys, especially Cole, but will help with the defensive aspect for sure. So overall, kind of a mixed bag here. Getting a little bit younger, but losing Palat and McDonough, I think, will kind of hurt, in my opinion. Occupancy, addition, subtractions for the Lightning. What do you think here?
Yeah, I got opinions about this Tampa Bay Lightning team. They're just a historic hockey club at this point. NHL fans of all ages, I think, really can appreciate what the Tampa Bay Lightning have done in the last few seasons, top to bottom here. The big one, to me at least, is the Andre Palat loss. He's a player that maybe didn't get a lot of attention, but he skates hard, he hits, and he can score. He's really one of those players. If you really look at the game logs, I mean, he had critical goals at big times. So I think he's a huge loss, to be honest. But if you pay attention to this team, to me, I think who they see as maybe becoming the next Palat is Ross Colton. Ross Colton is a very good young player who has tremendous upside. I think he can absolutely grow into the shoes that Palat has left, but he's young. So in his first two seasons, you can't even really count his first season because he didn't play a complete season. But last year, he had 39 points. I'm talking about Colton here. 22 goals, 17 assists, +4. And then taking a look at Palat's numbers last season, he had 49 points, 18 goals, 31 assists. So you can kind of see where I'm going with that, right? He had maybe 10 less points or so, but he's young. So I think he's going to grow into those shoes. Anyway, so I think Palat's a big miss. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to move the needle because you still have, everyone else on Tampa. And with the additions here, I know Nemestikov is a good skater. I don't know too much actually about a lot of these additions. So I'd be interested to see kind of how they mesh. But they're going through some changes. They are and were about to be a dynasty. And now they're going to try to find some way to, make a resurgence to become a top NHL team again. But very exciting team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think losing Palat is going to cripple this Tampa Bay offense at all. They'll be okay here. But we'll look at their top prospects and upcoming free agents for the Lightning. As you can expect, their prospect pool is a little bit depleted. Obviously, when you're making the Stanley Cup Final and you are trading year after year, you're not going to have the best prospect pool. They do have a goalie that they're high on in Hugo Alphanet for the future. Isaac Howard, Jack Finley, Kopke, who is projected to make the lineup this year, and then Nick Perbix, probably some others as well. But overall, not a top prospect pool with the Lightning, but that's to be expected in their position. When it comes to upcoming free agents, Alex Killorn will be a UFA, as well as Nemesnikov, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Corey Perry, Colton Ross, Cal Foote, both RFAs, and then Ian Cole and Brian Elliott, UFAs. So we'll have to see what Tampa does, but they could continue to look a little bit different next year as well. But their core pieces are signed. They re-signed a couple of guys last year as well to have their core signed. So overall, this Tampa team isn't really going anywhere anytime soon. But occupancy, prospects, upcoming free agents for Tampa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think age is just something you want to look at here. Corey Perry, he's been around. He's 37 years old. Bellemare is also 37 years old. Killorn, 33. Ian Cole, 33. So, I think these players can fit into the game right now and be fine. But when you're looking at free agency and who you're going to keep and who you're going to let go, I think that is where like the young talent, by bringing in Hagel, Nick Paul, and obviously Colton, like you're talking about, like to see if they can grow, and then maybe letting some of these guys go, and then really kind of maybe giving some more money to the younger guys, or keeping the veteran presence around. I don't know how they keep in shape and whatnot. If these are going to be guys who are going to be playing in their upper 30s or not, then you could still get another 2-3 years out of them. I don't know. I'm not there at training camp, so I can't really say for sure. But I will know in a week when the NHL season starts. So there's that. But I think this team, they're managed well. I think it's going to be a matter of just seeing how they perform. But I think they got it under control. I mean, I think with the GM, the management side of things, I think they kind of know what they're talking about in terms of prospects. Actually, I haven't done too much research on the up and coming people that got their eyes on the minors and overseas. That's not an area that I focus too heavily on, but I know it's important, and there's a lot of people in our community that do. So it'd be interesting to see if they bring some guys up. Terry was mentioning to me just before we went online that they're going to be a little injury ridden in the beginning of the season, so maybe they give a couple of these guys a chance, just to see if they can make the team, or they have. They changed it, but they used to have this deal basically where they could let players play a certain amount of games before having to like give them an official contract, and then they could either send them back down to the minors. So it'll just be interesting to see what they do with that and the prospects.
Yeah, I think it's 9 games, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think it's 9 games. But looking at the possible lineup for the Lightning. Yes, Anthony Cirelli and Bogossian are both injured to start the year. So losing that second line center for Tampa might kind of affect them negatively. Well, it will affect them negatively, but they may get off to a bit of a slower start, I think, this year than in former years. But you still have Braden Point with Stamkos and Kucherov. So that deadly first line. Killorn with Nicholas Paul and Brandon Hagel. That line is going to have to produce as a second line. They're going to have to produce for this Tampa team. As I said, Koepke looks like he's going to make the lineup with Nemesnikov and Colton Ross. Then you have Corey Perry with Bellemare and Maroon. Barbourlet, Jamal Smith as extras. Hedman and Cal Foote. Sergachev and Cernak. Cole, Myers, Hayden Fleury. Tampa's still got the defense. They've still got Vasilevsky, so they're going to be okay. This team isn't going to fall apart, but their goal scoring, possibly to start the year, may not be as strong, I think, as it will be with when Sorelli comes back, is my kind of opinion. But overall, still a very strong lineup from top to bottom, especially defense and goaltending wise. Occupancy, possible lineup for the Lightning. What do you think here?
Terry, how I see the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I see it are like, how are the veterans going to play? I mean, to be honest, like I think of a guy like Thomas Holmstrom. I played 15 seasons with Detroit. I don't know if you remember him, but he was a guy who just parked in front of the net and just slammed home pucks. And, it's a type of play where I can see guys like Corey Perry, Alex Killorn, Patrick Maroon really like taking that type of play. And, maybe they're not the fastest skaters anymore, and they're not going to go coast to coast, with some of these guys from Carolina. They're not. Absolutely not. But they have stick skills in front of the net, presence, and they can put the puck in. And I think when you really look at it, if these guys are going to be producing like that, then I'm not so worried about the third line, fourth line. You give me Patrick Maroon and Corey Perry hammering pucks with some younger defensemen. It's still a very interesting matchup. But I think, like you said, the second line is also going to be really important to look at, because can you get the production? Can you get all-star or sub-all-star performances from Paul and Hagel and Colton on a daily and nightly basis? If you can, then Tampa's going to be a top 3, top 4 team. But if not, then they're going to be fringe, 6, 7, 8 seed like they were last season. Tampa manages its players also like very interestingly, right? Because they have no problem putting someone on IR and saying, we're not going to be playing Kucherov, until April. If he gets hurt or he gets a strain or something, they're just going to take him out. So Tampa, especially for betting, you got to be really careful with this team because they're not like locks. Like, they're great. And if you learn how to play the team right, there's probably some really good betting opportunities, especially for like some player props, I think, with some of these guys to get over like 1.5 or 2.5 shots to record a point. I think Tampa is a really interesting team to get to know. And, going to go back in the crease and just talk real quick about Vasilevsky. His numbers, they started off just so high, and they haven't really gone anywhere. I mean, he oscillates from like a 925 save percentage to a 916 save percentage. If you kind of look at his logs, and he's had a sub basically 2.7 goals against average since he got into the league. This guy, he's amazing. I mean, he's really like maybe one of the best, if not the best goalie in the league right now. But you got to watch, because he's not going to be holding these teams to 1 goal every game, 2 goals. Like, if you watch him last season, I remember, you just see like his presence. Like, he knows sometimes he's going to get lit up for 4. And I think early in his career, he let it get to him. But like now, he's just like, okay, whatever. Like, this is the regular season. You have all these young guns flying around. They're gonna put 4 on him sometimes, and you just gotta say, all right, move on. And I think he's got no problem doing that. Look, you got to talk a little bit about Brian Elliott, because he's going to get some starts. Last season, he had 17 starts, so that's substantial enough. He had a 912 save percentage, Brian Elliott. He's been around the league, 2.43 goals against average, recorded 1 shutout. He's a solid goalie. He's a solid backup. I mean, I think, he's a 37-year-old guy, so he's, a little older. But, if they're going to throw him in the net, I think they know they can win some games. And especially with betting, you could probably get some wins. He went 11-4 and 3. Just checking here. Yeah, 11-4 and 3 last season, Brian Elliott. So if you bet that, you'd be up with his starts. So it's just important, check RotoWire, check Daily Faceoff, check who's starting these games. I really like Brian Elliott as well. And then last guy I'm going to talk about, just in terms of like players, is Victor Hedman. he, believe it or not, he's going up in points. So last year, he recorded 85 points. Okay, he had 20 goals, 65 assists, and that was a career high for him. So as the big Swede gets older, maybe he's getting more wily and smarter when it comes to his scoring and assist capabilities. So he's a really interesting player to watch. Maybe he is turning more into an offensive threat, than a defensive powerhouse. Noticing he can, you know, make certain moves on guys and get to where he needs to go. These high-powered offensive guys on the first line speak for themselves. I'm not going to go too in depth with them, but that was just a little bit of just an overview on kind of how I think this Tampa Bay team could end up playing out.
Awesome. Yeah, Brian Elliott, obviously his numbers improved coming over from Philadelphia because we know what Philadelphia's defense is. And then obviously Tampa's defense, so much better. So, even when Brian Elliott is in that, it doesn't mean to run away scared. He's not definitely not as bad as some other goalies in the league. But we'll take a look at the last 5 years for the Lightning and their futures for this year. Runners up last year, won the Cup the 2 years before that, first round exit 2018-19 and conference finals exit in 2017-2018. Tampa, by far the best team over the last 5 years, and I don't think it's particularly close. When we look at this year, 103.5 point total. That's interesting. That's interesting for sure. I do think they're going to take a small step back from the 110 points they got last year. I could see them at 100. I could see them at 106. I can't get to that point total because I could see it going either way. That's tough. That's definitely tough to make the playoffs. Minus 700. Yeah, I think they're going to make the playoffs. But if you're betting minus 700, there's no value there, especially for such a long bet. What if injury strikes this team and for some reason they miss the playoffs? Then you would not be too happy laying big money on a minus 700. But to win the division, to win the Cup, no play on the division for me. But the Cup plus 1,200, I think that's pretty good value for this Lightning team based on their history recently. They still have options. They still have young guys, and they still could make trades. So maybe if their offense does take a step back, they go out and get somebody to help with that. And as Occupancy said, if they do have an injury on LTIR, they'll have no issue trading for somebody and then going above the cap when they're in the playoffs. So overall, future's kind of tough. If I was going to bet anything, a small flyer on them to win the Cup just because they have that experience and they've made the Cup final 3 years in a row. A little bit short last year, but overall, still going to be a great team with Tampa. I think they might start off a little bit slow, but we'll have to see there. Occupancy, last 5 years for Tampa and their futures for this year. What do you think?
Yeah, Tampa Bay Lightning are just an exciting team. I don't care. Maybe if you live in Fort Lauderdale or something, you don't like them. But like other than that, like if you're a hockey fan, I mean, it's hard to just like really hate this team. I think I don't know. I like them, but taking a look at the points and taking a look at the records, Tampa last year, 39 wins, 12 overtime wins, 8 losses in OT, and 23 regulation losses. That landed them at 110 points. Okay, they outscored their opponents 287 to 233. So despite the injuries and over the cap and putting guys on LTIR and all that, they still ended with 110 points. All right, now I'm going to go to the bottom of the list for the Eastern Conference. It was the 7 and 8 seed were the Caps and the Penguins. And the Caps had 100 points and the Penguins had 103 points. So it's kind of, similar question is, do you see the Tampa Bay Lightning being a 7 or 8 seed in the East? And if you do not take that 103 bet. But if you think Tampa is going to finish in the top 6, I think they're going to get over 103, 103, 104 points. Will I take that bet? I don't know. I like it though, because the reason why I like it is because I look at those, maybe the bottom 4 teams in the East, and I think they just have the advantage in net. I think they have the advantage potentially on O as well. So like when you're talking about Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington, the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, not even the Panthers now, if they're going to be in the bottom 4 of that East, reserving, Rangers, Canes, Leafs, kind of deal for the, those top seeds there probably. But this Lightning team is going to be interesting. And we got to look into this, Terry, but, people will put these bets on and then hedge out, towards the end of the season. So if they win the bet, then there's no hedging needed. But if they're like close or not, they can be, taking underdogs against them late in the season. And, it's not something that I've really done yet, but I know that a lot of people do it. I know the people who've been betting hockey for, 10 plus years, they're all doing this. So, talk to people, try to, see if you think this is worth it. I think the 103.5 is really interesting. It's definitely on my radar now, considering they, finished with 110 last year. And I don't think they were hurt too badly in the offseason. I think they kept the core together, and I think they're going to be a playoff team this year.
All right. Perfect. That is the Lightning show. We will be doing the Montreal Canadiens in a few minutes, and then Boston Bruins were pre-recorded, so that will be coming. I'll put that up. Me and Nick did that one a couple days ago. I'll put that up after we do the Montreal show, and then that's it. All 32 NHL teams. If you've missed your favorite team, check the playlist on YouTube and give it a watch. Give any of the shows a watch. We'd appreciate the support. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content. And we will see you again in a few minutes for the Montreal Canadiens. Have a good one, guys.